Streaming. Stream live on LinkedIn. I know on YouTube. Live on Facebook. Live on LinkedIn. Wow, this is cool. I can do it here with you.
Okay, I see.
Okay, and then we'll go to intro. Cool. Okay, go to main, and then we're good to go. Okay, I can put this.
Yeah, it's gonna be a way of you switching.
Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode on the Colton Vita channel. Today we are going to talk about future versus past, and hopefully it's not a clear winner. Which is more important? Ideally, in the sense of learning from the past and planning for the future. I think those two things are very important. We're going to try to go over which is more important. And for that, I made a little way so you won't know which one to go. So pick.
And that side.
So you're going to do past,
All
and
right.
I will do future. All right. So future. Future is very important. I would say, for me, I most likely focus too much on the future, and it served me well. I think one of the most important things, though, is letting go of the past so that you can focus on the future. I think the past is very important to be able to focus on, because so many people hang on to it, they carry it, and they can't actually plan for the future. I have a kid, and they, even though they're supposed to go do something fun, they have this thing with their socks, and they can't get over the feeling in the past of this little, the clothes gets a little balls, fuzz balls, and they can't let it go, and so they can never focus on, hey, I got to get this ready and that. So when they go out, they're like, oh my goodness, where's my water bottle? Where's this? And so planning, I think, is very important, because the world is shitty. And when you plan, you slowly get out of it. I don't think that the world, you can get lucky. And that being said, I think in the future sense, I'd rather have a good future than a good past. Even if I don't know, I think for me, when I think about it, the past is about knowing how to succeed in some ways, but the future, ideally, the saying, I'd rather be lucky than good. I think there's less fear, maybe, because you can always get it back if you know from the past. But you can try a lot of different things. Especially when you read history, you read about all these amazing individuals and great ideas. Maybe they're ahead of their time. Maybe they just didn't have enough endurance just to last a little longer. Maybe so many different things. There's a million ways to fail, but there's a lot less to succeed. So I don't know. For me, at least, I'd rather be lucky than not. But that being said, I will say that this mentality of not being, not just being in the ocean and letting the tides take you away, like having a paddle to be able to navigate, I feel is what planning for the future is about. And for me, I've been very, very fortunate, because I know a lot of people who plan for the future and it just doesn't go that way.
You can't
right?
count on
it.
it.
You just can't. For me, I invested so much in school, and it went really well for me. I got scholarships. I got fellowships. $250,000 worth of education just in, undergrad alone. I didn't have to pay for it. right? And now I was extremely privileged and so lucky or blessed, whatever you want to call it. And that was a lot of planning. But I know a lot of people who didn't get it, right? And they maybe, unfortunately, couldn't go to a school that they really wanted to go to because it's too expensive. And, they didn't want to take out the loan, so the parents couldn't afford it. And so planning is really great, but there is some luck, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But that aside, right, I feel like I have to address luck first. That aside, when you plan things, you're no longer a victim in life. You do things with this, I forgot to set the timer. You do this with this idea of, I'm in a shitty place right now. And maybe the world put me between a rock and a hard place. But I'm going to slowly, consistently dig my way out. And I'm not going to just take it, right? And planning lets you, because sometimes you're in a bad place, but planning lets you slowly get out of it so that next time it's less shitty. And next time, and eventually you're on a flat playing ground and you're deciding what's happening. And, sometimes you're like Mary Poppins. You got way too much in your bag and you don't need it. But you're talking to a guy who loves to sit there and do research about like what dryer to buy. And to the point, not just like the model of the dryer, but the company. Is it going to be around 10, 20 years? Who's on the board? What type of like cash flow does it have? I love research, and that goes to planning. And I think it has to do with, I've realized that doing is really important. That you have to try. But I get scared and I get kind of stuck. And planning lets me get over that. And so I plan, and I've been really lucky that it goes the way I wanted to go. But for me, I would say that the future, the planning is extremely important, more so for me than the past, because it gets me to do. And I feel like doing is the crux of being present, right? So that's where I'm at.
No,
Again, this is live, so
right, and we didn't know which side we'd be on. So I think I'm gonna take from your metaphor about having a paddle, like having a paddle to go up on your route. And I think the past helps you have that paddle, right? Because the past gives you information, it gives you tools. Like you said, of course, you have to, act and plan, and that's very future oriented. However, without the learning and the information and the feedback from the past, it's less easy to know where you're going or to have all the tools that you want. And I think there's a fine balance. I feel like we always come back to this like element of balance, especially when we're we're arguing different sides. But I think that what is important is to not dwell on the past, right? Not, like you said, not have it have this weight, but have it give you tools and learning. And for me, I think it's also being able to say, okay, that didn't work. And then that is a motivation to do as well. Or that did work. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Or I'm going to do that maybe in a slightly different way, but now I know what what direction I want to go in, and I have this information to use. And I think the learning part is really important. I struggle with dwelling in the past, right? Especially if it's something that didn't go well. So, I messed up. I sent the wrong email. I really didn't think about this being an issue. I said something I didn't intend to say or didn't. And kind of using that to say, okay, that I can use to motivate me to, whether it's apologize or use it as an opportunity for connection, right? Oops, I sent the wrong email. Let me take that as an opportunity to connect with this colleague I don't always talk to and say, I'm doing all these things at the same time. Thank you so much for your patience and the redirection to the right person. These kinds of things, I feel like from the past, usually mistakes, like you said, if things don't go as planned, you learn more. Being helpful in guiding, in learning, in giving you what you need for your paddle to move in the future and take your next steps.
Yeah, it sounds like growth.
Yes.
It's really about growth. And yeah, I mean, funny enough, now that I think about it from a more macro perspective, I actually do think that it's funny that we got assigned these, because for me, I really do think the future is something I focus on more. And for you, you do get stuck in the
I
past
do.
more, and it is more important to you. And so the more I formulate in my mind, I still want to keep debating in reference to, if you only focus on one, which one should you focus on? But the more I hear you talk about it, I realize that it depends on the individual. It might not actually be about balance. We finally found one that isn't about balance. Well, I mean, it's always about balance, right? You will be better. I will be better at planning if I know what worked in the past versus what didn't, and that's growth, right? But it sounds like and I think there's a lot of people I've met out there that need that report card, right? That's why they're good at academia. They like academia because they get the report card. They're like, look, I did well. A lot of people like that. I'd probably say a majority, the gold star. That's why it motivates children, even though it's, exactly. And that helps, because that says, hey, I'm not just floating out here. I am, going somewhere, and I'm getting better, and I'm getting stronger. And I think for a lot of people that could be very important, maybe the most important thing. For me, I feel that the future, but again, I think it's about doing. I think the center of this is about doing. You focus on the past so that you can do and not get stuck in the past, so that you can feel more confident in that you did it well and you're growing. For me, I focus on the future more so that I can act, so that I can feel confident in doing in the moment. So funny enough, I think they both come together in about doing. And I believe that which one's more important is going to depend on you and where you get stuck. Right? For me, I get stuck in not moving because it's infinite possibilities. I don't know what could be good. And I want to feel like I am making a good decision. And for you, you want to feel like you made a good decision. Right.
Right. And I think in the same way, what's good for you also may be the more difficult one. So like I get stuck in the past, but I also need to limit the attention I pay to the past. I mean, I use it. I think where it comes together is definitely in the present moment, right? In acting and doing something, taking a next step. And I think that it may be the opposite. So if I get stuck in the past, then maybe I need to shift a bit more to the future and planning, informed by the past. But okay, I'm going to plan so I can make that next step. So I can feel, my future self can look back and say, okay, I did, like I plan it for my future self. Sometimes I think about that, especially when it's something hard. It's like, okay, I want to learn from the mistake. And then I want to make it so my future self is not going to be sitting in this same place in, whatever it is, a week, a day. So I think there's the two, like what's better for me, maybe what's harder for me, and maybe the opposite of where I get stuck in some ways, but also informed by, okay, how do I shift the way I look at the past instead of a burden and, I made a mistake and dwelling on that, shift it as growth and learning, and then move to the future or action and the future.
I think that's an interesting concept. I'm trying to wrap my head around it in reference to the difficulty. I believe that it depends on the individual. I can see instances where the most difficult thing is the one we run away from, so we focus on this other thing. But I would say most of the time, the thing we get stuck on is probably the most difficult one in reference to focusing. I think that certain individuals, probably people watching these videos, are individuals that are more proactive, that are more conscientious, that are more aware of themselves, that reflect. And those people, I believe, are going to probably know which is more difficult. And they're probably going to be focused on them, right? Yeah. I mean, I think taking it further would be focusing on where do you succeed? Where do you shine? Right? In many ways, I think where we get stuck is the most difficult, but I see it as like an anchor. If you got the anchor down, focus on putting it up so that it doesn't drag. But if you're in a really deep ocean and it's down, the drag's so little, right? Don't let it focus on it that much. You should really be focusing on making sure your engine can go full throttle for as long as they need to be going, right? And I think it's something I've said in the past, that it's way better for you to focus on your strength, because that's where, when you think of great people, when you think of amazing actors, when you think of somebody who's really, excelling, and there's different ways we can measure that, but in general, they're usually really amazing at one thing, and almost always they talk about how for them, you see it a lot with small business owners who made it really big, and they're just like, do your passion. And I think it's kind of cheesy, but I think the heart of that is if you do your passion, you don't get tired. And so, because that's where you excel. Everyone else is hard for that, right? They do that, and it's really difficult. But for you, when you focus on that, it's easy. So you can far outpace the competition because it's easy. You like it. It's good for you. It's what you're good at. And so I think it would be interesting to think about, do you, not just what are you difficult in the future or the past, but where do you excel when you look at the present? When you focus on the past or when you focus on the present?
On the future.
I mean, future, yeah.
I mean, focusing on the present is good
Yeah.
too.
No, this is all with the intention of focusing on the present. But yes,
I think we both
misspoke.
come together in the middle of the present moment and acting in it or being in it. Yes, I think. I mean, I'm just also. This brings me a little bit to thinking about what pulls you to know what it is that you are good at. In your example, like knowing what you're good at takes reflection of the past. So
got me there. Good point.
Because without that, you don't have the understanding of really where do you excel, but also the realization that you mentioned of this I'm good at. And sometimes even myself, I don't realize like I am good at this skill, but not everyone else is. And it's not necessarily difficult for me. So I can capitalize on that. And that's not true about many things, but I think having the understanding of being able to really leverage what you're good at, what you enjoy, what maybe comes more easily than to others, and be able to use that as your engine. But you have to be able to learn from the past to do that.
I think it's a great point. I have to give it to you. I don't have a counter. I mean, on the premise that presence is the most important thing and that action is what we're seeking, then action on those that make you go faster, most efficiently in the world, those are the ones that are going to be most beneficial for you. And it's hard to argue that the past is not important in that regard, because you can plan all you want, but if you're planning to just get incrementally better at the thing you suck at, it's not going to really take you that far. I will say, when I think about the general people I've met and the things you read about society and the surveys and all that stuff, I would say the majority of people would probably benefit from focusing on the past. I think, like I said, I talk to so many people that get stuck. I think there's two ways of actually getting unstuck. One is actually dealing with it, going in there and just exhausting it till it's done. It's like crying till you fall asleep, right? And you're just done.
That's hard too.
It's really hard. I think most people go that path, and I think it's really hard. But I think there's another one that we talk about less is, punching the punching bag, and then periodically going back and be like, is it gone? Is it depleted? And when you reach that point, be like, let go. For me, I feel like I'm really good at that because I'm so into efficiency. Sometimes to a fail point, right? But I'm always like, can I let it go now? No. Can I let it go now? No. And so I've gotten really good at letting go really fast, because I've realized I don't need to hang on to it that long. And the longer I hang on to it, the less I get out of the moment. I mean, again, we're emotional beings. We should be dealing with emotions, and it feels good to be happy. Sometimes it feels good to be angry. It feels good. But the longer I hang on to it, the less I can be present in the moment with myself, with other people. And so I think that emotions are there to communicate something to us, and we should learn from that. But dwelling on it is not good, and so it's better to focus on letting it go.
Yes, I think this takes me in a slightly different direction, but letting it go part, I think, is a mix, right? That's also like meeting in the middle, and a little bit like being in the present is, because you have to understand, right, what in the past triggered this, be able to reflect it or feel it. That's sometimes more present. But then letting it go is also like a decision for your future, right? To say, in your case, for example, I know it's inefficient to carry this. I don't want to carry this extra weight. I don't want to be distracted by it. So I'm going to decide to let it go. And I think I think it's a nice mixture of like past and future. At least how I think of like for my future self, I'm gonna let this go because I know, and that's something I struggle with too. And I also see others struggle. Like, okay, I've been angry, I've expressed it, I've felt it, and not taking the moment to say, oh, is it at a place where I can let this go? Like, can I not be hanging on to this anger? I think that one's an easy one to notice, this anger anymore, and then get on with it, or do the thing that I really want to enjoy. Thinking about like weekend time. Okay, I'm done being upset. It's something, my child said to me. I can let this go and we can have fun, or vice versa. And that is, yeah, it's a mix of past and present and future, and then being able to make that decision and be aware. And that's where I think I struggle to say, oh, this is a moment I can let it go for my future self.
Yeah, I think we've come to an interesting place. I think awareness and conscientiousness in the present is where it's at. So I think in general, I would feel confident saying that most people should focus on their path. But before that, you should be conscious and aware enough to know that that actually is a good choice. Because I think for some people, it might be the future. But not to lose sight of the why. Why are we focusing on the past? So that we can let it go and learn from it, right? Why are we focusing on the future? So that we can feel confident and change the way our life is or going to become the person we want to be, or the person inside of us can come out. And so in the future, it's not letting go, but it's about just, I guess, letting go of the planning, letting go of the goal, and just being present. I feel like letting go in that sense feels like it's a waste. Maybe feeling satisfied for where you reach. So seeking either letting go when it's the past, or seeking satisfaction when it's the future, so that you can be present.
Right. And I think coming full circle to what you were talking about in the beginning about like just drifting along, I think there's an important distinction that what you're not saying is just like let go and drift necessarily, but letting go of what's holding you back, fears, anger, or what you're holding on to from the past, so that you can be in the moment, and then, moving in the direction that you want. But it's not necessarily, at least what I understand, it's not necessarily saying, oh, just drift with the river or the tide, right? Maybe in some cases that's what you need at certain moments.
Emotionally, but sometimes
I think in the bigger picture, that's not the idea of letting go per se. It's just bringing it back to what we were talking about initially.
I think you bring up a good point, that this is very much external. This conversation is very much external. There's definitely an internal aspect to guide us, but we're talking about external things in life.
Yes.
Right? Because I think that maybe with the emotional aspect, which is internal, we would want to let go. I've realized that it's better because things come and I'm like, oh, I could feel angry about this, or I can just let it go. And I'm like, nah, I don't really want to feel angry right now. Oh, I can feel happy about this. Okay. But even happiness, I feel, gives you a high. It's like a sugar high, and then you kind of crash. So maybe you don't want that right now, or whatever it is. But my point being, though, sometimes you can't let go, and you just choose whatever you want. It's a buffet, so you choose whatever you want. But that's the consciousness internally. But I think for at least what I've been talking about is external. And I think that you're right in that sense, that it's about letting go so that you don't keep kicking yourself in the butt about like, oh, I've been swimming this direction and I came to a rock, and that's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to the island. And now you realize maybe you went the opposite direction. And so letting go is just being like, I'm not going to sit on this rock and just mope, right? Or be angry. I'm going to deal with that, and then I'm going to get back in the water, and I'm going to go the opposite direction. If anything, now I learned something really important. I got to the rock, which was the opposite direction of where I wanted to go. So now I know what direction to go in, right? And the future part is like, okay, maybe there's something here on this rock I can use. I don't know, driftwood that's there. And I can use that and plan and say, okay, where's the sun or where the moon is or whatever, the stars maybe. Maybe I'll wait till nighttime because I'll know better directions. The stars move a lot less in reference to orientation, so I won't get, I'll have a better chance of hitting the island, for example. So both those ideas can combine so that you can just feel more empowered in your life. And I think ultimately it comes down to then being present in the moment so that you get the most out of the present.
Yes, I agree. And while you were talking, it made me think of something I heard recently. I can't remember where it was from, but emotions and sometimes thoughts, because they can be like runaway thoughts for me. Sometimes, often it's thinking about like, oh my gosh, worst case scenario in the future, and then that gets in a loop, or messing up in the past, that gets in a loop. But also the feelings we've been talking about, anger. So if you think about you're driving a car, and if your emotions are driving, it's not so safe. If those thoughts that are just in a loop are driving, you're also not going where you want to go. You don't want to ignore them. So the best place for them is buckled in the back seat, like you would put your kids, right? Buckled in the back seat. They're there. You're not ignoring them. They are not driving. You wouldn't want your kids driving, right? You're aware, you can, know what's going on, but you're not completely taken over. They're not driving the car to wherever they would take it, into a ditch or what that might be, depending on the kids. So I like that idea of, you don't ignore it, but it's a way to say, I see you, you're there, but I'm not going to let you take the wheel. And for me, that really resonated, and it made me think of it when you were talking about the anger and the emotions and what does letting it go mean. Sometimes it goes out the window. Don't throw your kids out the window, but like it goes out the window. But sometimes it's there. That's the reality of it. It's part of you. It's part of your experience. Sometimes, there are triggers, so the emotions come up, and then you can just make sure their seatbelt's buckled in the back seat while you continue to drive.
I think the step from there is just realizing that there's no aspect to you that is good or bad. It just depends on the situation. And sometimes it's very good to be, obsessive compulsive about something that does need detail. And sometimes it's not when you got to move forward. I think we ended up in a good place in the sense of it's about knowing yourself and focusing on that which you think is going to benefit you the most so that you can be present now. And that there should be a clear winner for you as an individual if you know yourself enough. That being said, it's homework. I would say if you want to challenge yourself, one thing I would say is, and this is about practice, right? You get better with practice. And if past is something, it's about trying to let it go a little earlier. I'm not saying don't deal with the emotion. Deal with it, but let it go a little earlier than you would and see what happens.
Yes.
Don't worry. If you didn't deal with it properly, it will come back.
It'll let you know.
It will let you know, right? The kid will start screaming, right? Because it is not satisfied with the attention it got for the problem that it was addressing while in the backseat. And in the future, in reference to like the planning, do a little before you get to the point where you're like exhausted from the planning, or before you feel really confident you're going to do it.
Take the action.
Yeah, take that action. And then because you're going to figure out, it's like, oh, it went pretty well. Went amazing, actually. And so you're going to realize you're going to get more time to be present. And that, I think, is the main thing here. We don't want to focus on the past any more than we need to so that we can be in the present. And we don't want to focus on the future any more than we need to be in the present either. And so that would be the challenge, I think. And I think each of you should look at it from your perspective, from maybe a reflection and what you think is better. Anything you wanted to recap or end on?
No, I think we have buckled up in the back seatbelts, and present moment is a nice place to kind of come to the middle. If we think of the timeline of past and future, and then present and moment in the middle.
Yeah, and this one, is interesting. In the past, I think we've had a clear winner, and this one, I think, really depends on the individual. But I think we set a good rubric in reference to what you should look at, in reference to which you should choose to focus on. But like you said, like everything, you should focus on both. They're important, and they should be there in reference to, a healthy balance in life. All right, I think we'll end it there. Hopefully that was helpful for you. It's always interesting, I think, for me, just one, thinking on my feet, but two, trying to formulate these ideas in different backgrounds. right?
Mm.
I think past is always very important. The future is very important. But when you put them both together, it really makes you think in different perspective. And I think that one could learn a lot. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And if you want more information, please check out the book, The Selfish Guide. It's available on Amazon. And there's also all other social media out there, as well as the website. And until next time, stay curious, stay open, and stay true to you. Thanks for watching. And if you have any ideas, please please write in the comments, or if you had any comments about something you experienced and trying letting go or trying to feel satisfied in what you plan, please comment below. Thanks again. Till next time.